Okay, it is 6 p.m. We will call the County Board Budget Hearing Meeting to order at this time. I will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, roll call.
Roll call shows 4 supervisors absent: Supervisor Peterson, Berg, Eisenhuth, and Hull.
Any members of the public wishing to be heard? Seeing none, we will move on to approval for the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Omar moves. Later seconds.
Okay, and Flater seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, are we ready for the vote? Yep. We will then call the vote. To approve, press green. To disapprove, press red. Should be set, shouldn't it?
16 yes, 0 no.
Okay, the agenda passes. Again, members of the public, none we see. We will jump into the public hearing budget. Proposed budget, Mr. Schultz.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Randy Schultz. I'm the Chippewa County Administrator. Just for new members and the public that's watching, I guess, because there's none here. This part is just for the public to get input for the county board, and then later in the agenda, under the business item, the county board can make changes, and I can answer any questions at that point for the county board. So this budget, like all budgets, are complicated. This one is a little more complicated than most. We had the comp study, we had shared revenue, we had ARPA, opioid, and BEAD are some of the things that made it a little more complicated. I just want to thank all the county, or the department heads for all the hard work they put in for this. Lori and I and Jennifer spent a lot of time together over the month and a half or so that we were putting this budget together. So really appreciate everybody's hard work and the work the committees put in during the budget process. So the tax rate, which is what everybody wants to know about, so we put that up front. We'll talk a little more about this as we move through the budget document, but the tax rate would go to $2.40 from $2.72, which is 11.87% reduction. And really the main reason for that is this equalized valuation went up so much. It went up 14.38%. We'll look at some trends later in this document too to kind of look over that. So the proposed property tax levy would go up $169,663, which is a 0.81% increase over the previous year. And then we always like to hit some budget highlights. We wrote out more of this year than in the past, just because there was so much going on. So out-of-home placements due to mental health and meth epidemic. Obviously, we've been putting money in over the last couple years. We put in $200,000 in 2022 and $40,000 in 2023. I'm recommending to put in another $100,000 for 2024. And really what's driving this, I think Tim and his staff have done a really good job. The out-of-home placements are down. But unfortunately, the state required this qualified residential treatment program that really all it did was increase the cost for us. So that had something to do with the state being able to pull down some more money from the feds. And also the Winnebago Mental Health Institution went up 10% too. So that's $1,450 a day for that cost. So those expenditures keep on going up. Before, we'd always say, obviously it's best if we can have the placements close to home, in state. Typically they were cheaper. Now we're actually finding that there's situations where out of state is cheaper than in state, which is unfortunate because of course we're always going to try and keep the person closest to home as we can. But so that's really the driving factor. If we were at the same people in out of home placements that we were 2 years ago, this budget would probably be about half of this. With the price back then. So then Human Services, ADRC, also we're looking to add $50,000 for their food Meals on Wheels program. This is because of the increase in cost for not only the food, but the expenditures for gas. And this will open up some new places of service for those folks. So I think a really good way to spend our money. We know that Chippewa County is getting older and we're going to have to provide more services. We've been kind of talking about that for the last few years. And then the IT division, we're looking to add $120,000 for Office 365. Really, this has to do with cybersecurity. Implementation will be started in 2024, but full implementation will be 2025. And then state shared revenue, that was a big unknown kind of going through the budget process. It took some time to actually get the numbers, get the right numbers. That was called Act 12. Chippewa County received a little over $741,000. So I kind of broke out where we put that in the budget. Doesn't quite add up to 741, it's like 735. But those additional costs would just go towards wages, the difference between those two. So the district attorney's office, we added $50,000. That's for a future position there. It always takes us a few years to get positions for areas that are only tax levy funded. So we'll put that in contracted services. If there's something the DA can use for contracted services next year, they will to offset some of the workload. And then we'd be looking to add that legal secretary in 2025. Corp Counsel, we added $140,000. Again, an area that's all tax levy. We've been trying to put some money aside for that over the last couple years. We do have $25,000 already in contracted services, so that should be enough between those two for a full-time position. Highway, we added $100,000 for non-highway fleet. Really, does Ryan and his crew take care of this non-highway fleet, but this is really just inflation. It's costs for parts and for gas, and we really haven't kept that up over the years. We should probably be adding some funds in there every single year. Then the sheriff's department, we did $175,000 for the jail division. This really came from costs for meals. I just signed a contract today. It's going up 10% more. So that cost has gone up pretty substantial over the last year and a half. And then boarding inmates. We were hoping that was going to kind of bounce back after COVID, but I think like a lot of jails, they're doing the same thing our jail is doing, putting people on ankle bracelets, trying to keep them out of the jail. But that reduces some of the income for us. We were hoping that was going to bounce back, but it hasn't done that so far. I was just asked today if there was anybody accepting inmates on my administration meeting, so I raised my hand and said, call us. We have some availability there, so hopefully we'll start getting that. And then $25,000 for the communication division. Again, just a really tough division to keep the staff, and that's really for overtime. $20,000 to increase for our radio council. We did a radio council project, and then we added those towers, and that's really just for maintenance. And then we created within the sheriff's department, we created a security operations. It's not a division, it's not like the jail, but we are separating that in the budget. And that's really so the county board and the citizens can see what security is costing. So we did put $108,787 in there. That's currently what is being spent on the courthouse security. And then we added $225,000 because obviously we're looking at that single point of entry. This will give the county board some options. If we didn't budget anything, you really want to have a whole lot of options available to you. If you decide not to do it or go in a different direction, that would just go back in the budget process for next year. But that at least will give you some options. And that would fund 2 full-time positions and some operation costs that we've been able to identify so far. And then property liability insurance, been talking about this the last 2 years. It went up 81,000 again. We are looking to do an RFP. We were going to try and get it done for this year, but it just didn't work out. The insurance was pretty complicated, and we're looking at putting an RFP, and if we do decide, or if you decide to, because I would have to come back to the county board because we're owners in our current insurance company, that'd have to come back, and you guys would have to decide to get out of that and go in a different direction. So that's what made it kind of complicated. And then we're in our second year of self-funded health insurance. As you can see, we have a 0% increase. We do have confirmation that it will be 0%, which is great. You know, we've done a lot of work with this in Nearsite Clinic. We're doing some other things to be cost effective. So we're very excited about that, and it's the reason I really pushed to go to self-funded. So we're starting to, you're starting to see some of that with the 0% increase. Medical inflation, I don't even know what the number is, probably 8-10%. So we're not seeing any of that. We didn't have to increase that with the changes, which is great. Then annual employee wage adjustments. In this budget is a 3% increase. That'd be going effect on July 1st of 2024. And really the huge part of this budget was the compensation study market analysis. And that total estimated cost is almost $2 million. And we're looking to add $1.49 million, which is property tax credit, which is really the sales tax, without increase in taxes. So that was the reason, one of the reasons that it was complicated, because we had to work all that through, get that through the whole process during the budget process, send that to our department heads, and they had to implement that within their department. So that made it a little complicated. And then jail, transportation and LESB certification. We did add a jailer 2 position. That means that we have jailer 1, jailer 2. Jailer 1's like an entry. Jailer 2 is that the Wisconsin Law Enforcement Standard Board certification, which means they can carry a weapon, essentially. This will help with transports. This will help when we don't have to take patrol off. We don't have to take investigators off to do transports or have them stay at the hospital with them. But obviously that was an increased cost, about $48,000. And again, it would be funded through the tax levy property tax credit. And then the other area that we've talked about quite a bit is, the jail and telecommunication, just being able to keep those positions. So we did recommend putting in a $1 an hour shift differential, and that's about $60,000 between that cost, and that'd be funded the same way. The new positions, eliminated positions, these are everything that's been approved by the board already. You see the first one, the deputy county clerk, or deputy county clerk and veterans specialist. The county clerk will have on a full-time position, and then the part-time position that was with the veterans office will go to the county clerk. They worked really hard. I have to give Peter and Jackie all the credit. They really worked that all through before they even brought it to me. And you can see there's actually a levy savings about $6,200 just in the county clerk, and there was about $10,000 in veteran services for that. Then administrative assistant 2, a position that would go from a 0.8% to a full-time position for extension. Again, no increase in levy for 24, and then there would be a slight increase in 2025, but we'll work that through the next budget process. And then really the bulk of it are the positions you guys are used to hearing about, the CCS positions in Department of Human Services. Then I'll just point out some things that weren't covered. Extension, you're going to see that reduction of $54,000. That's the fair contract that we have with the fair. They've wanted it out of their budget for a long time. So we finally took it out this year and put it into, where did we put that? Budgeted, no, general county that we went, yeah, general county, we added it to that. I'll show you that in a little bit. Treasurer, there was a $50,000 increase in interest. We are seeing, obviously with the interest rates, a big increase. We saw a big decrease a few years ago, and we try to keep that as stable as we can. We want to be realistic, but that can fluctuate quite a bit from year to year. depending on how interest rates are going. So we try not to take too much out when it's starting to go down, not put too much in when it starts going up. So just try to use our heads, common sense with that. Veterans, like I said, $10,000 savings there. And then general county, it was the large increase was the property tax credit, just shared revenue numbers, and then the extension fair contract. Facilities, we did add $10,000 in there because of the tower project. That's additional maintenance. And then budget adjustment, there was a reduction because last year we had the WPPA contract in there and then longevity payment, which we didn't need for this year. And then if you go down, there's exceptions to levy limits. And for Chippewa County, other counties can have additional exceptions, but Chippewa County has libraries and county bridge aid. You can see how much that has gone down. I believe Brian was using some fund balance for the county bridge aid, which helped offset some of the expenditures for that. So if you look at all that, you'll see that's the total increase, the 169,000, which is again the 0.81% increase. So just in summary, the budget is consistent with the Chippewa County Strategic Plan, is sustainable for fiscal year 24 and 25, and allows the Chippewa County Board to address operation needs. And then we can look at some of the special areas. We added these bullets, I guess, or added to the presentation. Special funding, utilize the National Opioid Settlement Funds. When we wrote this, we had 1.96 million available over about 18 years. I just got notice 3-4 days ago of another one that settled that no one heard about. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of the wild, wild west with this. We kind of get what we get, and we're trying to keep a handle on all of it. But even WCA doesn't have a handle. We've asked for like a master list. Give us a list. Okay, these are the ones that are going to be settled. What are you anticipating? We can't even get that from WCA, and they've been involved in this litigation from the beginning. So I don't know if this is the biggest settlement that we've have year to date, but the county board approved the procedures moving forward, which I'm really glad you guys did that, because any of the funds coming in, obviously we keep segregated, but we also have a process through the budget process to bring that forward. Then BEAD, which I just talked about. BEAD is for high-speed internet. It was $42.5 billion expansion and for the federal budget. 1.5 million of that was towards planning. So Chippewa County did receive $18,337. We've utilized some of that to do surveys. We just got the results back at our last BEAD meeting, and Chippewa County was second in the state for return for surveys behind Brown County, which obviously is a lot bigger county than us, so I'm pretty happy about that. And that will continue to grow, I think. I don't think they're all in yet. We know there's some on the map that should be on there that aren't currently, but we'll deal with that. Wisconsin's getting $1.1 billion. I know I've talked a lot about this, but to me, it's been confusing because we thought the reason for the BEAD meetings and the committees and all that was to find out how much money Wisconsin needed, and then they released how much Wisconsin was getting before we submitted the plan. So not sure what that's, I don't understand that, but we're doing everything we should be doing to make sure that Chippewa is going to get the funds eligible to them. We have had several conversations with our telcos, and our telcos aren't feeling real warm and fuzzy about BEAD. There's this huge capital outlay for the project size they want, and they don't feel like they're big enough to do that. So we'll see once BEAD kind of hits the ground and running through the PSC grants if our local telcos do that. Or it could be like NARDOF, it was called, and it was only big companies could do that. That was several years ago. So it might come down to that too. So BEAD, again, is our telcos. I think one of them said if you thought ARPA was complicated, you haven't seen anything yet. So that doesn't make anybody feel warm and fuzzy about that either. But speaking of ARPA, so obviously we've been dealing with this for a few years already. You can see all the plans and programs that's designated to in the resolutions that the county board has passed. Again, we have a process that will make sure we're following all the requirements and that we'll be able to spend the money accordingly and not leave any on the table for that. Then one of the big part of the budget is sales tax use. So the total amount for sales tax to be used is $9.5 million for this budget. You can see how that's broken down between the property tax credit, the debt service, and then the airport. And then the rest is just part of our CIP that's already been approved. So those numbers will equal out, obviously. And then the total for the 2024 sales tax distribution, this breaks that out in that nice little pie graph there. And then comparison, I like comparisons, I like trends, especially during budget season. So you can see the difference between 2019 and 2024, not a huge difference percentage-wise, but it's always interesting to me to see how that changes. And what I always say is I think this is the most interesting page of the document. It really shows trend analysis. You can do lots of different reviews on this, but going down the list here, equalized valuation, you can see how much that went up more than even the previous year as far as dollar amount. The percentage is a little lower, but back-to-back 15 and 14% years is really good. And then the tax rate, obviously, divide that by your levy amount, and that gets your tax rate. And you can tell that's gone down quite a bit since 2018. Another decrease this year of 11.8% with the decrease last year of 12.2%. And then net new construction, we had a really good net new construction year. I keep on forgetting to try to go through the list to see where we are across the state, but we were high. We were within the top 10 for sure, maybe even higher. We normally budget about between 300 and 350,000, we think, in that, just for looking at the trends, but at 448, that was a very good year for us. Then property tax levy, obviously we talked about that, the 0.81% increase. And then here's allowable proposed property tax levy. So this is how much we'd be under our levy limits. We're looking to have that at $250,000. And really for that is we don't know where security's going for sure. We don't, future expenditures, everything's going up. So we'd like to have a little bit of a cushion going into the 2025 budget in case there's expenditures that we're not aware of, something different. And then our total budget, we started last year putting in, because obviously it's a dramatic increase from the 77 million to the 126 million in those years. So we did put in last year kind of where the big increases were, and then this year, as you can tell, really 2 years ago was RWC, and then ARPA for highway and capital projects increased obviously for that same reason. And then this year it's RWC again, and then the wage increase was kind of the big one. So RWC, as you can see, is a big increase in costs from year to year. And then we look at the general fund balance analysis. Again, we want to be around the 35%, but between 30 and 40%. It's kind of skewed a little bit because the ARPA funds that came in and those increased expenditures because of those having the funds available. So we would expect that to go up at the end of this year. So we'll see how that kind of all plays out. And if I could just change my page here. All right, and then the budget summary. The total 2024 budget would be $126,122,210. Recommended tax levy is the $21,110,729. And then recommended tax rate would be 2.40. Again, we're at 32%, in between that 30 and 40%. We want to have that for bonding. And then just to break down on the $2.40, if nothing changed, which it always does, so this is a hypothetical, nothing's changing on your excess value for your house or anything. But if you had the exact same house, exact same assessed value, your $100,000 home would go down $32. $150,000 home would go down $48, and then a $200,000 home would go down $64. Then we just always break down distribution of proposed tax decrease based on levy allocation. And then the budget expansion or budget expenses, and then budget by function. And then we always end it with the strategic plan. This year is going to be a little different. I am asking under the budget, when it comes under the business item, I am going to ask that someone make a motion to allocate some funds for broadband. And I'll run through that when we do that. But it's basically having $30,000 available in case these telcos can do some PSC grants and we can give some money to them. They were looking to do ARPA, but just with the timing of that, and we were really concerned that they'd even be able to spend the money in that time frame. And the county board's given, quite a bit of money for that purpose too. So we don't have a whole lot of ARPA left. And so that was kind of the idea of at least freeing up some money so we can say we're partners with them. And then we always do letters of support and that kind of thing. So, well, that's all I have for the public hearing.
Any questions? Nope. Okay. Public comments, since we don't see any there, so I guess we would close the public hearing. Go to reports. Report on highway operation, Brian Kelly.
Good evening, everyone. Highway Commissioner Brian Kelly here for my annual check-in with the board. Just so you know, I am required by state statute to do this every year, and the statute kind of tells me what I'm supposed to talk about, but this is my chance to get up here and talk about extra things too, what we did in the department that we're proud of for the last year. So I take the opportunity to do that as we go through here. Please feel free to ask questions. I have more of the orange books on the back where I was sitting if anybody didn't get one yet. Otherwise, they should be in your mailbox downstairs if you didn't find one yet. This is kind of a summary. What I'll go through tonight are performance measures that we look at every year. So financial reports that I show the highway committee every month. Talk about the different improvements that we did this year for the highways and bridges, along with what's planned for next year. And the same thing with equipment and vehicle purchases for this year and next year. I'll talk about 5 special projects that we did this year that were unique. I'd like to highlight those a little bit, and I'll talk about the highway committee and staff and open it up for some Q&A at the end. So we had a big year this year. Resurfacing, we did 26.1 miles of our 489 miles. We've talked for years about trying to get to a sustainable 25-year plan. So we actually gained some ground this year at about 18.7, so that was good. But as Randy mentioned, we have the ARPA funding at highway, $3.5 million this year alone that we had planned for ARPA. That also helped boost our chip seal program up to just under 20 miles. So if we were going to get to that recommended 7-year cycle, we'd be doing 70 miles of chip seal, 70. So we're pretty far from what a lot of the counties and the areas that put more money into highways are able to afford. So we're doing our best with what we have. And we installed 50 new culverts, mostly on our paving jobs for next year. We replaced the culverts a year ahead on the paving jobs. And also kind of as they fail throughout the county, we address them on a case by case. We have about 1,700 of those in the county. We had a really big year for hot mix. This was through the end of September, so we've finally finished our hot mix for the year last Thursday. We had 75,000 on this slide. We actually ended the year just under 88,000, so that's the most we've done in over 20 years at highway. Again, thanks to the ARPA funds. We chip sealed. We produced gravel. Gravel was 122,000 at that time, probably closer to 135 by the end of the year, so also a big year. We budget about 1.4 million for local municipality work. We did about 936 at this point, so we're pretty much right on track to meet our budget by the end of the year. And then we did about 120,000 of work for other departments, and we were right around 92. So again, right where we plan to be this time of year. These are the winter performance measures, and it's a lot of information. I'm not going to go through every line, but basically, we have two pots of money that we're responsible for in the winter. We have the county's funds, which is our $1.4 million of levy, and then we have our state maintenance agreement for all the state and federal highways, and that's about $2.6 million. So they're in charge of all the levels of service on state roads. We had a very bad winter last year. So the hours were high. So almost 10,000 hours of plowing on the county system. We would look at an average year being closer to 5,500. So close to double the amount of hours that we'd expect to see. But the good news is that with things we're doing with education and using more and more salt brine, our material didn't go up. With the winter we had, using 4,600 tons of county salt, on an average year, we'd expect to use about 4,800. So we used less than our average amount with the winter we had, again, through training and just trying to get more brine on the roads and wetting our salt when we put it down instead of letting it scatter when it hits the pavement. These are our workers' comp numbers for the previous year, August 1st to July 31st. We had 7 claims with an average claim amount of about 4,700. We kind of use this to help gauge our safety program, make sure our employees are being safe. We haven't had a lot of the big injuries in a while. The 5-year average is high still because of the big outlier that we had last year. We had a really bad injury last year of an employee that is now in a wheelchair. And so that's very, very costly when that happens for workers' comp. So without that outlier, we'd see about a 5-year average of about 82,000. So I think we had a good year for workers' comp. You know, any injuries are too many, but only 6 lost days through September in 2023 compared to 248 the year before. So I think our employees did a good job being safe. We preach safety constantly at the highway department. We have monthly safety meetings, monthly toolbox talks. We have a full day of safety every spring and every fall. Our annual safety day of the fall is coming up on Wednesday. So we're just going to keep preaching safety, and hopefully everybody gets home safe every night. This is an analysis of our non-lapsing highway department funds. So all these funds at year end, whatever balance we have will be our beginning year balance in 2024. So it's a little bit challenging to look at these funds in the end of September and know exactly what's going to happen in the next 4 months. But, you know, we can make some projections and kind of tell that a lot of the funds are looking really good. The one fund that is concerning is the winter maintenance. So we had 567,000 beginning fund balance. We're going to look at probably seeing that go down by 400,000 to 500,000. So we should still be in the green, but we're going to make some adjustments with a little extra levy from county maintenance over into winter maintenance next year to try and build that fund up a little bit again. Oops. This is the county bridge aid for the towns. So these were the ones that I brought to you last year at this meeting, and you can see most of them are completed. Basically what this is insurance for the towns. So when a town has a big culvert, 36 inches or bigger, or a bridge that they need to replace, they can get half of it paid for by the county. So they're responsible for passing a resolution and agreeing to pay for their half, and then we fund the other half. The reason it doesn't count against our levy limits is because then, I'm not sure how Jackie does her thing, but it goes back to the other towns. Kind of an insurance policy where when they have a big project, the other towns help them out. So as long as they're all using it when it's their turn, it kind of helps keep things from getting too big on a big project. This is our 2023 bridge fund. One of the achievements that we're obviously very proud of was finishing the Cobbin Bridge. I'm not going to go through all these, but Cobbin was completed on time. We opened that up on July 25th with ribbon cutting. Completed on time, ahead of schedule, within budget. So went very well. That's unfortunately not the last big bridge I talked to you about tonight. So I'm going to go through a couple slides of some other bridges here in a minute that I just want to make you aware of so that when I come to you in a year or two and ask for money, you understand why. The first, the Yellow River Bridge, this one's already funded. This was on our CIP for next year. But just to make everyone aware, there was some historical review delays in Madison that's going to push it back to 2025. So that's the bad news. The good news in the meantime, this project went from being funded at 80-20 to being 100% state funded. So we're not going to have to pay anything but a few incidental costs, maybe $20,000 or $30,000. So on a $2 million project like that, that's a huge savings for the county and helps us free up some money to address some of the other bridge issues. This next one, also on our CIP for 2027, this is kind of a sister bridge of the one I just showed you. This is Highway K out by Lake Wissota. It's posted at 40 tons. We do have a funding plan for this one already for our share of the 3.1 million. Our 20% share will be about 620,000. That's already in our CIP, so I don't have anything I'm too worried about with that one. It's right on track and everything. This is one that's not on our CIP, but another one that's eligible for 100% replacement funds. So we've submitted it for state funding. This is the Highway X Elk Creek Bridge out in Wheaton. Basically a frontage road to Highway 29, so it's not going to be a huge impact to a ton of traffic. They can get around on 29. But very nice that we can get this $1 million project funded at 100%. This has been a really hot button bridge out in Tilden, Highway Q Bridge. This is just south of Highway B. The Rooney Farms corn storage and drying facility is just south of that. So they'll run about 3,500 or more loads of heavy corn over that bridge in the fall. So what happened was the outside beams in that bridge started to sag, and we had to post the bridge at 35 tons. And that wasn't going to work for them because in the fall from the harvest, they can haul 92,000 pounds. So 70,000 pound loads don't really do them any good. So we came up with this idea during the harvest, put these concrete barriers up there, reduce it down to one lane, keep all the traffic on the strong part of the bridge, which is the middle. We worked it through our engineering consultants and the DOT and got everybody on board with that plan. Rooney paid for the traffic control to put up the barrier and the stop signs, and it's working really well. It's wide open out there. The trucks, they can all keep going on that road rather than going on Tilden's roads and destroying their 2 bridges and 2 miles of pavement that they might have posted anyway. So it was kind of a good compromise, I think. We're going to work out a plan to use some state funding to replace or improve this bridge in 2025. We're not quite sure on the scope yet, but we do have a plan for funding it now. This is the Highway S Yellow River Bridge up in Colburn. Pretty close to that Highway G bridge, so with them both being posted at 20 tons, it's created some issues for the town roads up there. But the good news is this is a $2.6 million bridge. We're submitting for 100% replacement funds on this one too. So don't have anything to worry about on that one. We'll hopefully find out on the funding here in the next couple months. But then the other Yellow River Bridge, Highway O, east of 27. West of 27. This is about 4.75 million with our share about $1 million whenever this is funded. It's not funded yet. It's not in our CIP, but we're hoping to get it funded and built in 2028. So that one's a big project coming up. And then onto the big bridges, Highway Y, the Chippewa River Bridge in Jim Falls. This is the second longest bridge in the county, 766 feet long. On August 2nd, we had a hit and run, take out 5 of the bridge railing posts and take off on us. So we've got this concrete barrier bolted to the bridge deck, and hopefully that's going to buy us enough time. It's not currently on our CIP, but we're going to work this into our CIP for 2026. It's funded at 80-20, so of a 4.4 million, our share is about 890,000. The trucks have a tough time turning there. You got the AMPI dairy on the east side of that bridge, a lot of milk trucks, and a lot of tire rubs on that barrier already. We are going to widen out that turn lane when we improve the bridge. and then it'll be all new bridge deck and railing. So it's a big project. 766 feet long. That's the second longest. Cobbin's 505 feet. So this is 260 feet longer than Cobbin. And then our longest bridge in the county, Highway M. This is 798 feet long. This is a bridge that's going to need to be replaced. It's got some serious issues that aren't fixable. We have it posted down to 20 tons right now. It's very deep, so it's going to be very expensive dealing with the water when they build the piers, about 40 feet down from the bridge to the bottom of the river. We estimate this bridge to be $13.5 million. Yep.
Just gonna ask, is that the one up in Holcomb?
Yep. This is the Blue Bridge in Holcomb going out towards Ted's and Paradise Shore.
Couldn't place it.
Yep.
So, sorry.
And $13.5 million is what we submitted for funding. So if we did get 80/20 funding, I think our share is $2.7 million. We are hearing rumors, and we've seen in some of the guidelines from the bridge program that they're not going to fund more than $6 million. So that would make this only 45% state funded, and we'd have to come up with the other $7.5 million. I don't think that's going to be feasible for us. So the regional staff in Eau Claire did ask the state Secretary of Transportation for an exception, and I did submit a letter requesting that as well. So we don't know if we're going to get an exception and get it 80/20 funded, but at the earliest, this is probably a 2028 project. We have this posted at 20 tons, which is basically school buses and maybe ambulances. So we have a camera on each end of this bridge. We're getting pictures of oversized loads still. We do try and contact the businesses when we can and give them courtesy requests to not do that before we call law enforcement. Can't quite find a pattern to get anybody yet, but we will be asking State Patrol for more help when it continues. We could keep this open, hopefully at 20 tons, but if the heavy loads continue, it's probably pretty realistic that this bridge gets closed before we actually have the funding to replace it. So we submitted 9 projects on October 27th for federal funding. And we really wanted to focus on those ones that would be 100% funded, because the way it works is they go down your priorities until your money runs out and then they stop. So we wouldn't want to put Highway M first, have that take all the money or not get funded even, and then not get any of the other projects funded. So we have 3 town projects that will be funded at 100% if they're approved. So we want to make sure all the county and town ones 100% will get funded, and then the big ones last for O and M. There is a lot of money out there for bridges right now, and we're hopeful that they're going to fund everything this year. And so we submitted all these, and we should know in a couple months if they're funded. On to the highway road construction report. This is our non-lapsing fund for our road construction. It looks a little bit like we have a negative deficit on here, and that's because we're still waiting on a couple of transfers for some bonding funds that we hadn't gotten the request in and gotten our transfer for bonding and some ARPA funds. So by the end of the year, we should have a savings overall on projects, and that closes out into that contingency down at the bottom. And then we have more of a cushion. We can do additional work in the future if we need contingency funds to do that. This is our 2024 construction plan. 18.6 miles. That's a big year, again, because of the ARPA funds, 2.75 million of ARPA funds. So we'll be right on track for a sustainable amount of paving. 30 miles of chip seal is the plan, so a little bit less than we'd like to be doing, but again, that's a really big year of chip seal for us, so it'll be nice to get some of these roads protected. These are the pieces of equipment we purchased at the highway department this year. The patrol trucks, 3 of those. You can see those are very expensive. We have 47 of those, so we always buy 3 a year to try and keep them about 15 years old. And then the biggest purchase we've ever made in machinery is this wheel loader. This is a huge wheel loader for our gravel pit. Basically a workhorse in our gravel pit nonstop. And then 2 utility vehicles for the management team, 2 Chevy Traverses. Next year, we've got the 3 patrol trucks again. Those are already bid out. We usually look at about a year and a half of lead time to get those. So we bid those out back on May 16th of this year to get them here by next year. And then one more big purchase we need to make is this generator for the crusher. So that's going to kind of tie up all the other funds that we have available in our machinery fund for next year, because we need to replace this generator. If our old generator that we have right now that we keep fixing goes down, we're out of the crushing game until we get it fixed. So it's something we have to bite the bullet on and replace. Here's our 2023 non-highway vehicle fleet purchases. All of these are here, and most of the sheriff funds are still being built. They take some time to get all the equipment installed at GenCom. But the one thing on the last line is that van that's on hold. That didn't get ordered yet. So otherwise, all that's bought and paid for. And then for next year, these are the vehicles. Obviously, our sheriff's department is the biggest user of the fleet. They put a lot of miles on those utilities, so we have to replace 4 of those next year. Facilities and parks pickup, and then 2 pickups for LCFM. Should be delivered in January, hopefully. And then there's a few special projects I want to just touch on real quickly. This one was kind of unique because we're one of the first counties in the area that's tried this. It's a ultraviolet liner that goes inside the pipe. It's really good for deeper pipes. So we tried this out on Highway 00 out in the apple orchards. We're going to be paving out there next summer. And we didn't want to tear up Highway 00 and have detours during the busy season. So for some of these deeper pipes, 10 to 15 feet down, we did 5 of them with this trenchless technology. Worked great. I got to go out there and watch one from start to finish, and I'm sold on it. You know, it's not cheap. It's probably $14,000 to $25,000 for a pipe, but you're not digging up the road. You're not disturbing the soil and having compaction issues, and you're not interrupting traffic. So I think it's definitely something in the right situation we're going to continue, because with those deeper pipes, that can be a few days to replace a pipe. So savings are definitely there. We're installing green lights on all of our maintenance vehicles. You'll see a lot more on our patrol trucks this winter. Last winter, we had them on most of the state routes. This year, we'll have them on 33 of our 47 trucks, with those remaining 14 kind of being the older trucks that are being phased out. A lot of the spares, we probably won't put lights on those just because they're going to get replaced soon. When we do build the new ones, they'll get green lights. But a lot of good feedback on the green lights. They're very visible from a long distance. And so we know it's creating a safer condition for our drivers and also the public. We had a leaking issue over the last couple of years in the Boyd shed in our shop area, and we needed to get that roof replaced. We hired Bauman Construction for $197,000. They did a little bit different approach than I had expected. They put purlins right over the existing steel roof and insulated between the purlins, and then they put the new standing seam steel on top of those purlins. So basically, you've got the old roof still in place and a new roof right on top of it. So the R19 insulation we used to have is now R34. So kind of a neat project, something we don't do very often. Just west of Stanley on Highway O, we were having a lot of erosion problems in that north ditch. That's 345th Street that you can kind of see in the top of that picture. We worked with Linda's staff to do a real detailed analysis of the stormwater runoff in that area. And with Mar farms, they're growing. There's a lot less groundwater that's able to go into the ground. A lot of it's impervious surfaces now. and it goes into the ditches and fields. So that is bringing some extra water into the ditch, but the real problem was this 36-inch pipe underneath 345th Street was way undersized. So the water would come shooting out of there like a cannon anytime we had a big storm, and it started to erode. Eventually just ate its way down half a mile down the road. So we worked with the town of Delmar and Mar Farms to pay for that pipe work, and we replaced it with a much larger 68-inch elliptical pipe. So we should have a really good ditch and drainage system out there in the future. CDL, seasonal employees, have been a big problem for us. We used to hire at least 8 of these every year. We can't find them now. There's just too many CDL jobs. There's full-time jobs with benefits. Nobody's going to come work here for CDL positions that don't have benefits. So we had one retired individual that came back and did seasonal for us, but otherwise we took a little different approach this year. We knew we weren't going to find the seasonal CDL drivers, so we started to train these 3 high school seniors, and they came on as flaggers without a CDL, and we train them now to make them eligible to take their CDL test when their season's done here in the next couple weeks. So it was really a win-win for them and us, because we found flaggers, which we were having a hard time finding, but these 3 young men are probably going to have CDLs in the near future, make them eligible for full-time employment here or anywhere else. And actually, the student that you see sitting there has already applied for full-time. He's anticipating getting his CDL soon. Recently applied for a truck driver opening. So trying to continue that. We're promoting that at career fairs. We've never done this before, but we went to 4 local career fairs last year through CISA 10. They also invited me to speak on a panel at the Chippewa Falls Middle School about careers in the highway department. And so that was kind of how we found those 3 individuals. We are working with this Chippewa schools to get in with their career fair this next year. They don't go through CISA 10 for theirs. So we're going to continue to educate kids about careers at the highway department. We had some really interested kids, and continue to do that. I think it's a worthwhile investment. This was our highway committee out at Cobb and Bridge before it was demolished in 2022. And then this is our summary of our staffing for the highway department. 9 of us are salary managers, 63 of the operations staff, and then we have a fiscal manager from the finance division in-house, and then 2 clerical staff at the front desk. And we try for those 10 seasonals, ended up with 4 this year. And we also try for an engineering seasonal, but we didn't find one this year either. So these are the full-time employees that really stepped up this year. We did all that extra work, paving work with less bodies. So a lot of these maintenance people had to take on extra duties. It's just more work for everybody. Shop, stockroom, everybody's busier when we have that kind of work. But they like doing it. They're very proud to be able to do that much work, and we're all very proud of it, because it's crazy to be able to go out and pave that many miles compared to when we used to do 7 to 10 miles. A lot of people wondered if we could do it, and now we know we can. And then I always wrap up the back cover of the report with a couple statements from satisfied customers. We did a joint project with the city of Stanley, going through there on some streets that took a lot of coordination with their staff, and it just turned out really good. So we had some good feedback from one of their aldermen, Mark Fitzsimmons. And then we did a project out in Lake Holcomb, 270th Avenue, which is a busy road. It goes out by East Bay and that area. And they had some utility work that we had to coordinate with them on. And in the end, it was just a really good project. And Town Chairman Brian Gutman was very happy with it. So he wrote us a couple paragraphs for our operations report too. So that's it that I had prepared, but I'm happy to try and answer any questions anybody has.
Questions?
You said you had openings for 10 part-time or seasonal, and you had 4?
Yeah, we had gotten approval for, I believe, 7 of the CDL and 3 of the non-CDL. and we found one CDL and the 3 non-CDL.
In the non-CDL, like, what's the age requirement, you know, that
Just 18.
18?
Yeah, we did have a lot of juniors in high school that were interested, and they weren't old enough. But I had one from Altoona reach out to me a couple weeks ago. I'm a senior now, just so you know, I'm coming to work for you guys when I graduate.
Supervisor Steele.
Yeah, Brian, kind of made me nervous when you said, got the camera up there on that M bridge. They keep violating, you're gonna have to close it down. That just will devastate the 2 towns or 3 towns up there for sure, maybe 4. But that bridge closed. 28 is the earliest. I kind of understand that, and I understand getting the finances together, but gosh, somehow, you know, hopefully we don't close it down for 5 years.
It's local businesses. I mean, we're trying to get their attention and help them understand the situation. That they're the ones that are likely to make those gusset plates bend even further than they are. And we're watching them all the time. So,
It's local businesses up there.
yeah, we've had definitely delivery companies that are going to local businesses, local trucking companies, equipment companies.
There's somewhere we could really put the pressure on those companies or something, or. If that goes down because of a few, you know, it's gonna be devastating, really. I mean, the bus route will be at least 15 miles longer from the west side. You know, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, all we can do is track them down when we can get the name off the truck. I mean, we don't have state-of-the-art cameras out there either. They're hunting cameras, and they don't. Sometimes you get a picture on one that doesn't show up on the other, so you know they are what they are. We're just trying to get who we can get and make them aware of the issue.
Supervisor Mueller.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had one other question. I was looking through the highway construction projects of 2024. And, of course, this falls out in my district, so that's why I'm kind of keying in on it. But the County J and 50th Avenue intersection, my understanding was that the highway bridge that goes over 29 was going to be done about the same time. Is that correct? But that's not being done by
Right.
our county, right?
So there was a couple projects there that were tied together. Our roundabout project was tied with the Town of Lafayette Safe Routes to School grant to get a bike path out to Stilson.
Right.
And then at that time, the bridge needed to be widened in order for that. So the bridge was getting older. The state decided to move up the bridge to that time. In the meantime, the Attorney General put out a opinion that you cannot condemn for bike paths or sidewalks. And so every property owner would have to be a willing seller in order for us to build a bike path. Lafayette didn't feel they could get willing sellers all the way to Stilson. And so they withdrew their Safe Routes to School project. And so now the state's building that bridge without a sidewalk. And we're building our roundabout without needing any extra right of way for sidewalk either. So that was kind of a surprise because we were building sidewalk. They had that rule in place for paths. We were building sidewalks to avoid that. That was at the direction of the state. And when that ruling came out, and that just changed everything.
But the overpass bridge, it will still be replaced in 2024?
So both those are 2025 now.
Oh, 20.
Yep. It says 24. That was the plan, and we've talked to Randy. We're gonna encumber the funds in 24 and hold on to them to 25, but it was delayed by the state by 1 year now.
Thank you.
Didn't see County G, north of 64. I thought that was on our list.
Not sure that is. there's some work on Highway G in 2027.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Couple questions for you, Brian. How much thought has been given to how we're going to maintain these roads that we're resurfacing now in 5 to 10 years when they should be chip sealed and stuff? How are we going to fund that? Because we're not keeping up to the theoretical cycle as it is. Now we get all these new roads that we want to try and prolong the life of.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to do that?
That's one thing we're sticking to our guns on. We are chip sealing early. That's proven to be a long-term thing, good investment to do that in that first 4 or 5 years. So far we've been able to fund that where we're doing our 4 to 5 year old roads with chip seal every year, and we're gonna stick to that. But it's the older roads that are gonna get worse and worse.
So at some point, I suppose you're going to do a lot less paving in 1 year so you can do your chip sealing then on these new roads. That's what it's going to come down to, isn't it?
We may have to look at that. We may have to look at, instead of pulverizing and pulverizing the whole road and repaving 3.5 inches, we may be covering them with 1 inch of blacktop to smooth them out too. I don't want to do that. It's not a long-term fix, but we're looking at all kinds of different things.
And then the other question is, who determines when the shoulders get graded on state roads? Is that DOT or?
Well, we have a maintenance coordinator that he's in our office every week, and they talk about the upcoming work. So it's kind of between him and my state patrol superintendent. They agree on all the coming up work.
Because State Highway 40 hasn't had the shoulders graded in a long time, and it's too late this year probably, but.
I don't know for sure on that one, but a lot of times we let the combines finish hammering them and then try and pull them up a little bit before winter. But I'm sure they're taking a beating out there with all the farms.
Okay, I don't recall seeing a grader on there in a year or two. So it's getting to be a jump when you go out of the driveway now.
Oh.
Anyone else? I have one comment. I want to thank Brian Kelly for the work that he and his crew did on that Highway Q bridge. That was a very hot potato area with all the truck traffic and stuff. That would it go from 40 ton to 35 ton in 4.5 weeks of manure hauling? And by narrowing it down, his crew, they came up with the idea to narrow it down to 1 lane to keep it off so it could handle these roads. And that literally, we'd be having feuds between our different producers over there because of this issue, because that bridge gets closed, it's going to be a nightmare. So, job well done. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, we will move on to business items. Resolution 3923. Resolution to approve county aids for bridges and culverts in 2024. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Later move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, got to read the resolution.
Resolution number 39-23, resolution to approve county aid in 2024 for bridges and culverts. Now therefore be it resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors does hereby authorize county aid match funding for the projects above and does further levy a tax to meet such appropriations on all of the property in the county which is taxable for such purposes. And be it further resolved that the county board does hereby direct that any balance remaining in any appropriation for a specific improvement after the same shall have been completed may be used to make up any deficit that may occur in any other improvement for which provision is herein made. And any balance remaining at the end of the year shall remain in this fund and be available for the same purpose in the ensuing year. Forwarded to the county board by the Highway Committee.
Any discussion?
You want me to say anything about it?
Good.
Okay. This is just status quo. We let all those 23 towns participate in this program, and we asked them by July 1st to get us their projects for the following year. These are the 4 that were submitted. Randy kind of alluded to we were going to have some fund balance that we could use. So there's $85,685 that we need for our half of these projects. We're gonna fund that with 45,685 of that levy, and we have 40,000 of fund balance that we can fund the remainder with. So overall, historically, we've had savings over the years, and that's kind of built up a fund balance, that non-lapsing fund. So we can use some of that for next year instead of going back after that full 85,685 to the other towns.
Any questions, any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, then are you ready for the vote? Almost.
Yep.
Okay, to approve, press green. To disapprove, press red. Can release.
16 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Then we'll move on to Resolution 4023. Want to read it?
Resolution number 40-23, resolution to approve funds for county aid construction and maintenance during calendar year 2024, read by title only.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve?
Bergeron motions to approve.
Glenn got you.
Oh, second.
Glenn, you second. So Glenn made this motion, John second. Okay, any discussion? Brian, go ahead.
Most of the stuff's already been approved in different resolutions, but line 15 is our road construction from the CIP. Line 16 is our bridge construction. Line 17 is our ARPA for next year. 18 is our regular and county maintenance, and then the others are on 19 with the county aid bridge, admin, and the non-highway fleet. So overall, we've got $4,506,711 of levy. We noted that we didn't use any bonding next year in our budget. $3.4 million of sales tax and $2.75 million of ARPA.
Okay, any other discussion? Ready? Okay, then we will vote. And green to approve, red to disapprove.
Sixteen yes, 0 no.
Okay, resolution passes. Okay, approval of the 2024 budget. Need to read anything? No? Okay. So then we'll get this going on the floor. We'll look for a motion to approve.
Hunt, motion to approve.
And the second.
More seconds.
Okay, discussion. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to bring this back up. This is the document that was in your packet. Just explains kind of what happened. We got a request after the budget was completed for additional funds. Obviously, we're concerned about the ARPA funds and the amount we have available and the timeline for that. So what we came up with as an alternative or something the board can consider is we do have $30,000 set aside in land development fund. It's been in there for a few years, and we don't have any plans to utilize it for next year. And but we have to come up with some expenditures just for that budget. So I'm asking if somebody's willing to make a motion to amend the budget to change that for the PSC grants. And I kind of wrote out a possible motion there if somebody's interested.
Okay. Did you say anything more on it, or
Nope,
just
that's it.
one? Okay. Okay, please ask for an amendment. Anyone want to so make an amendment?
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Would that be an amendment to the current
Yes,
motion that's on the floor?
that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, Bergeron makes the motion to amend. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Schmidt seconds. Okay, on the amendment, any discussion? Supervisor Steele.
What companies and what are they gonna do with the money?
I don't know. I don't know. This is if they would request it in 2024. It'd just have money available for it. The requests they made, we're not able to put money towards it because the deadline's tomorrow. The deadline's tomorrow. So this would be if they would come in 2024. You guys still have to approve utilizing the funds, whatever those projects would be. If they're, do a PSC grant, or they could do it on their own too. They don't have to use PSC grants, but that would be a resolution that would come before the board to utilize the funds.
Okay, Supervisor Schmidt?
Just for a second on the motion.
Oh, okay. What's up there? Mr. Erickson?
On all this telecom stuff and like with Bloomer and that, do we have anything built in where, like, do they just basically have to bury the cable and they're done? Or is there anything in there where it's got to get to the house? I have an incident, this happened to be CenturyLink, where they had a cable run and the customer could not get them to hook up till he finally flagged down a technician. And the technician had to fight with them, saying they had no service. He said, I'm standing next to the pedestal. I got 150 meg at the pedestal. And I just want to make sure that, they're not just burying cable and calling it done and collecting their money.
So the grants, I believe, when they came through, they talk about the service locations. So any service location they go by, they have to hook up, and it has to be fiber. So all the resolutions that we passed talked about that. But we have heard stories, not from the telcos we've dealt with, but from other telcos having issues with, we've heard all kinds of nightmare stories about that. So.
Any other discussion on the amendment? I would have you read the amendment, and then we will vote.
The motion to amend the budget for, to amend the Land Development Fund Program Expenditure line item 602-04-54712-5300000 to change the $30,000 and have it used toward broadband expansion equally among the requesting telcos rather than signage at the business park.
Okay, so that is an amendment. Then we will vote on that at this time. Green to approve, red to disapprove. Ready?
16 yes, 0 no.
Okay. Amendment passes, and we'll go back to the original motion. And any further discussion? Seeing none? Oh, did you? Getting too quick for our electronics? Supervisor Steele.
Sorry, I couldn't punch. Anyway, I've voiced my opinion several times about this budget. The way some of the money's being utilized. I think everybody knows how I stand here. But I think it's very interesting. We have a budget that's 600 and some pages long. Okay? We as a county board sit here and no one has a question about anything. Think of that. You're representing the people. Okay? I mean, I think the process is flawed. We get the presentation totally here. 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes later, we vote yes or no. And the chance that we get to sit down and dive into this. That's all I got to say.
Supervisor Teuteberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would you say, Randy, that the county is on firm financial ground based upon the budget you presented tonight?
Absolutely. Yep.
Would be in the and it would be under the purview of the county administrator as well as the department chairs to come up with items themselves. And there is a checks and balance processes in place to make sure that these expenditures are within the appropriate number and means and legislation and ordinance and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I mean, is the plan to increase our unallocated funds, get that back up again? I know we really hit it hard. I mean, are you gonna plan to get that back up towards that 36, 37, 38% again, or?
Yeah, we try to increase that each and every year. It's just, it was kind of the perfect storm with ARPA funds being available. It changes your expenditures. That 12.6 million or half of that's not going to be available, obviously, when ARPA goes away. So that's really the reason that there was an issue there. And then that unallocated or yeah, what is that called? Unrealized loss, where we talked a lot about that. Every county dealt with that. It's money that we have to show it's funds we have to show on the books, but it's not real money. It's our investment in money we would have lost because the interest rate changed, but we're not going to lose any money. We're going to gain that all back eventually. So those are really the two things that cause that. So it should go up.
Supervisor Mueller?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to tag along onto that, the unrealized loss is basically because we didn't cash in, right? I'm a simple-minded person. I never even took an accounting class.
Yeah, that's essentially right. When it's a difference on, because what the interest rate, when it changed from what we had invested to what it was, if we would have cashed it out, we would have got that additional interest because of the interest rate. But we weren't able, never would cash it out, first of all, because it's part of our funding mechanism. But that we have to report that as a loss, even though there's no money involved. So
no money actually goes away.
Correct. Yeah, but we will get what we put in for our investment at the interest that we submitted it at. We will receive that eventually. It's just a matter when the bonds come due and they rotate through.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, go ahead.
This will not affect our bond rating in any way with that drop like that, right? This.
Shouldn't, no. I mean, our bond rating's extremely strong. As you know, there's counties that have had other issues that have our same bond rating, which really upsets me because of all the work we've done and the good financial position we've been in throughout the years. So we don't anticipate any change with our bond rating. And the bond rating, I don't know what they're called, companies or firms, they realize that everybody's dealing with the same thing, those unrealized losses. So.
Okay, anyone else? I would make one quick word for thought after seeing the Highway Department report and budget. What we've got about $12 million of ARPA funding that we didn't have before. That's pulling us kind of up by the bootstraps a little bit this time around.
For highway, well, we did 8 million for highway over 2 years, right? 3 years? Over 3 years.
3 years. And so the food for thought, we got somewhere in the neighborhood of 96 bridges in this county. And we just saw the funding that it takes for them. So for those who are just coming onto the board and the other folks who are here, this is something, this can be some heavy lifting down the road. Can be some very heavy lifting.
Yeah, I've been dealing with it for 20 years. So. The issue does not change. The solution's easy. The coming up with the solution's difficult.
Seeing no other comments, then we will call the vote. This will be as amended.
Thank you.
To approve, do you want to read it again?
You want me to read it again?
You want me to read it again, or have you got this pretty well digested? Okay. Call the vote then. Green to approve, red to disapprove.
Fifteen yes, 1 no.
Okay. Resolution passes. Then we'll move on. Agenda items for future consideration, get them to us so the exec committee can look at them, we get them on. Other than that, I would seek a motion to adjourn.
Erickson will make that motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Pedro will second that.
Okay. All those in favor, push green. To stay around, press red.
Glenn, vote.
Glenn,
Is it sure yet?
16 yes, 0 no.